Okay, now we'll get started. So thanks everybody for coming tonight. It's really exciting that people are interested and showed up and want to find out more about what we're doing. I wanted to start with some yays and hoorays. First, Amanda is doing great as our new supply coordinator. She said she had a few snafus at the last transfer, but that she's pretty much got it figured out. Robin Jenks is doing an incredible job, and she has had a pretty heavy workload recently. And a huge thanks to the Lost Dog and Now Cat team for assisting in capturing Miss Tessa and getting her to where she needs to be. Our most recent transport was 60 animals, 54 dogs and 6 cats. So we have cats from Rough and kittens from a new shelter in Georgia. And congratulations to Bill and Casey, and thank you a million for taking on your 325th dog. And that's not even counting the cats and all of the other work that Bill and Casey do to help OPH. So they are superstars and amazing. And OPH got a top rated listing for best nonprofits. So that's exciting too. My next big announcement is that I am coming there to visit and hang out and go to some events and see what all is happening. I'm coming on the 21st. I'm going to go to a puppy event in Italy. And then on the 22nd, I will be going to the Mount Airy Winery Dog Days event. 23rd, I'll be riding on the transport van with Alan. The 24th, I'll be going to the Glen Burnie PetSmart. The 24th, that evening, what about, I have not decided yet what we're going to do, but I'm thinking maybe a picnic or dinner somewhere, someplace near Ellicott City, which is where I'll be staying in an Airbnb. So if anybody has suggestions, please forward them to me. And the morning of the 25th, I'm going to do a little boarding buddy bust out, and where is yet to be decided. Depends on how many dogs we have in boarding and where. And everyone is welcome to come and walk or hike and hang out with the dogs and me. Oh, please do not yell. The next big adventure is the Best Friends Adoption Weekend, which is June 29th, 30th, 31st, July 1st, and July 2nd. During that time, we get a stipend of $25 per animal adopted from Best Friends. And we are getting ready to advertise all of that and pull that together. So that's an exciting thing. We will be donating that stipend toward the adoption fees of the animals being adopted. So that will be really great. And what's next? Let's see. And so we also got the most recent update from Shelter Animals Count. And that is what prompted us to move on this project that we're discussing tonight. Shelter Animals Count reported the first quarter of 2023. And unfortunately, nationally, from the data that they collect from shelters and foster groups and rescue groups across the country, they reported that adoptions are down 50% from what they were in 2021. So, along with intakes are going up everywhere as well. And we have heard from several fosters that their fosters have missed out on being adopted because our process was taking too long and they went elsewhere to adopt. So also our partner shelters are overflowing and asking for help to bring dogs, which we did a great job this month so far. So what we are looking at, also Pet Finder announced in a call that I was in yesterday that June 12th was their highest number of animals listed for adoption ever. So there are a lot of animals out there waiting for adoption. And so in the interests of making our adoption process a little faster, a little more streamlined, getting to yes with our adopters, we are looking at dropping the barriers and reducing the friction. So we'll be dropping our personal references requirement. We will be dropping any breed specific barriers that we have in place. Right now we require a home check for any pit bull or bully type breed or Rottweiler. And we also we put a general ban on any sort of herding breeds or breeds considered high energy. So we are looking at dropping that as well. And we are going to streamline some of these things. We're going to do more conversation-based adoption. We will still continue to do the veterinary checks and the landlord checks for people who are renting at this point. We really just want to start. We will have, so our reference checkers will still have work to do, but it will be a lot faster because those are probably the easier ones to get through, to get returned than the personal references. We want to start being a little more welcoming and starting at yes and seeing where we go from there. And this may also help. We're going to have more discussion between the ACs and the fosters and do more conversation-based adoption, meet and greet calls, and the finals with the ACs will be our big information gathering time. And it will also give us the opportunity to educate our adopters a little bit more, find out from them what they're thinking, what their thoughts are as far as what is it going to be like to have the dog? What is it going to be, what do they need to do? How do they need to prepare? What can we do to help them support their adoption? And we are hoping that this will make a more successful, faster process for everybody involved. Still admitting people. Okay. So we really want to focus on making a good match and making sure that we can get to yes. And we do have a lot of information from Best Friends, American Humane, Maddie's Fund, and ASPCA on playbooks for how to script, when to say no and how to say no, and how to create community with your adopters. And what we're looking at is a pilot program. We might actually start with the Best Friends weekend and see if we can get a lot of dogs and cats adopted then. But officially, we're going to start our pilot program with this July 1st and run it through September 30th. And we are going to do some data collection to see if it is effective. And I will let Chelsea talk to you about that a little bit. If you have anything, Chelsea. No, you don't have anything?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. And now you're gone.
Now I'm here.
Ah, there we go.
Okay, hold on. Can you just be quiet for a little? So I don't know if we have, formulated a complete, well thought out plan at this point. I mean, the biggest thing is that there's definitely seasonality to adoptions. And so while we're doing this, it's hopefully going to run for about 90 days. Summer can be, have its own situation with people traveling, vacations, but it will run through the kind of back to school in September, where people, might be more settled and willing to bring an animal home. But even, that said, we'll be thinking about what makes sense in terms of comparability for the data, so that we can, make sure we're not drawing conclusions without factoring in kind of the seasonal, cyclicality, I guess, of how adoptions go throughout the year. But yeah, in terms of metrics, I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of something that we'll be discussing in the future, what makes sense to look at. You know, maybe it's how long dogs have been in fosters, how many just so everyone is kind of aware from the application process. So an application will come in, and then it goes through the stages, right, of reference checking. That's called the workup stage. Then it goes to a queue where adoption coordinators can pick it up to do the final interview. Once the final interview is done, their application is marked as approved, hopefully. But the whole, amount of applications that we received, only about 40% get to that approved status, right? And that can be for a number of reasons. I know, part of it could be that, length of time that we're taking to, it's not because of our reference checkers aren't doing literally an amazing job. They're picking up applications as soon as they come in. It's really the personal references, at least in my experience, that are, can be difficult to get a hold of. They give the wrong email address. This leads to, extended time that it's kind of sitting in that workup stage, even though someone's actively working on it. So it's these situations out of our control that in the meantime, that adopter may, be looking at other rescues, as a lot of them are. I just had an adopter, even though, we had the final interview and everything. I sent her some dogs that might fit what she's looking for. And that day she had gone to the local shelter and picked up a dog because they were waiving adoption fees. And that's great. I think, we want to encourage adoptions everywhere. But we also are, we do have shelter partners that rely on us to get dogs moved up north specifically. So hopefully we can kind of minimize that time back and forth with the personal reference checks specifically that, in the meantime, someone might go elsewhere. But data analysis to be determined.
Awesome, thank you. Yes. Yeah, and I mean, that is one of our goals, is to make sure that we are moving a lot of animals from our really overburdened partner shelters. So, and we will still have our reference checkers doing the veterinary references and the landlord references, landlord checks. However, if people do have an interest in moving into being an AC, I'm going to let Lee and Ellen talk to you a little bit about how great it is to be an AC and what that entails. Are you guys able to unmute yourselves, or do I need to unmute you? Not that you can tell me. Okay, I'll unmute you, Lee. Oop, I can't unmute you either. Okay. What's happening here?
I think I'm unmuted. Am I unmuted?
Yay, yes.
Okay, Ellen, is Ellen unmuted?
There
Okay.
we go.
Okay, Ellen, did you want to take this part?
Well, I can talk just a little bit about being an AC and the switch from RC. I know that it seems like a big jump, and in some ways it is, because there's more time involved. Reference checkers in this new pilot program are not going to be spending very much time on any one application. It'll just basically be 2 phone calls. I kind of wanted to talk about what I like about being an AC and what I think some of the barriers are to people wanting to get into it. The positives in my mind are that you have a lot more kind of real human interpersonal contact with people, both the adopters, you really do get to know them because you talk to them on the phone initially for a half hour to an hour, depending on your style and what they're looking for. Find out about them, find out what kind of dog they want. You spend time looking through our dogs that are available. And also, we're encouraging more interaction between the adoption coordinators and the fosters so that it's more of a discussion in terms of whether it looks like a good match and whether to go forward or not. It sounds like it's an awesome amount of responsibility, but it's really a team effort in terms of people adopting a dog once you get to the approved point. And it's, in my mind, in my experience, working with Lee, particularly with fosters, a cooperative effort. And that is something we want to encourage more. It's not just the foster deciding, it's not just the AC deciding, it's not just the adopter deciding. It's a joint decision. You know, we get returns. That's not under the control of the AC. It's not like the AC makes a bad decision in making a match. There are many factors that go into dogs coming back and the match not working out, most of which are not predictable to start with. So if you're a reference checker or in some other role and you're interested in being an AC, I encourage you to
Ever sometime tonight?
do the training. And
I want to put that the commode, the walker,
and I'm
in the back
kind
the
of
car.
the
I'm gonna try to
secondary
take it to that
person.
place in Manassas.
So in any case, and if anybody has any questions at all about the AC role, you know, let Lee or I know, shoot us an email and we'll talk to you about it. We like to talk on the phone. We don't do everything by email like most of the other steps, which is something that I happen to like because I think communication is better that way. So that's basically kind of what I just wanted to say, and encouraging people to consider the role. And the other factor is you have a lot of control over your schedule. While one adopter may be time consuming, there's no pressure to take on 5 people at once. I myself don't like to have more than 2 active adopters that I'm working with at any one time. That in part depends on how long the list is. Of course, now with the applicants being lower, you know, there's not a lot of people waiting. So we kind of take the person who's been waiting the longest, which is part of trying to speed up this process, is not having people sitting there, and take them through the process. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Lee, what do you want to add?
Okay, so to become an AC, you will be working with either myself or Ellen, and Fran has also helped me train ACs, but we will take you through the process. We start out having you listen to at least 2 of our interviews, and then we will listen to yours and you know, guide you through it. There is a process, and it can be, you want to get them to talk. And so you want to ask a whole lot of open-ended questions, just to get a feel for them. I mean, sometimes they're going to say something that's going to spark your interest. Maybe it doesn't jive with you. If you get to that situation and you're not sure about approving a person, then just say, you know, I have to run this by my adopt group. and I will get back to you. There's always a lot of support. I mean, either from me, Ellen, or other ACs, and also the adopt group. If you have any questions, everybody is here to help you. Working with the fosters will, tell you how to work with a foster. I rely on the fosters a lot, and just guide you through being an AC. It is rewarding. It can be at times difficult, but when you see a dog go home and the family is so thrilled with the dog, it just really makes it all worthwhile. And I'm here to answer any questions. I've been doing this for 6 years, and I've been training for about 2 years. So it is rewarding. I think that's.
Yeah, and don't worry about returns. This is something that we hear from a lot of people, is that they're scared to become an AC because they don't want any of the animals that they AC for to be returned. Well, our returns are on par with returns from other shelters, rescues, any kind of welfare groups across the country. I like to think of returns as an opportunity to gain more information. We want to make sure that that both the dog and the person have a good fit and a good relationship together. I mean, I rehomed my first husband, and I have returned a puppy that did not like my other dog, my older dog. And, it wasn't because of any fault of mine or of the person who adopted out the puppy or of my dog or of the puppy. It just, sometimes it's just not a good fit. And we have to look at that as a way to gain more information and make a better match the next time, once we know more about the quirks of the animal. So don't let animals being returned scare you off. Now, if you are not super excited about being an AC and you have other things that you might want to help with as an RC, we do have multiple things available for people to do. We can always use administrative help. I could use an administrative assistant. The med admin team, Tracy would like to add a couple more people to the med admin team and train them up on that sort of stuff. And we also need a PetSmart adoption. It's not a coordinator, it's the person who handles the PetSmart paperwork, because we got an email yesterday that PetSmart is also streamlining their adoption processes. And so they want us to fill out some information for them. So if anyone is interested in helping with any of those administrative pieces, please do let us know. And if you're interested in becoming an AC, let us know. And now let's have some Q&A time. Do we have questions or concerns or ideas about streamlining our processes, about pulling out the personal references? Do people have concerns?
I just had a quick question that I thought of, especially with you referencing the Best Friends adoption event. So with doing those types of events, I think it would be great to have it a lot more streamlined, because I know that I know fosters have voiced before, like, why would I bring my animal to an event if they can't go home
Get
at that
adopted from
event?
there.
And I was just wondering, like, how the couple of checks that we would still need to do would affect that type of a process, like being out at an event.
Yeah, so one of the things that people can do is that there can be an AC on site with a computer and a phone, or an iPad and a phone, or whatever. Joanne has offered to make herself available for the adoption event, and if we maybe have another AC available, that would be great. But yeah, I agree. I think it would be a really great choice to let people, adopt and
The-
go home and be happy.
Yeah, and
I
I know
think-
that like a lot of people like to attend those types of events because they like the opportunity to meet the animals in person. And kind of like have that availability to like pick in person instead of like from a picture online. So I think being able to utilize our events would definitely help increase our adoption numbers.
Yeah, I agree. And
What
it might
would we
also
do
encourage
about
people
the
to
vet
come.
check? So I think, isn't that, Chris, isn't that your question? If we had to do the vet check and the landlord check,
Yes.
how do we navigate that on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, that is an issue. And I mean, at this point, I guess all we can do is ask people to bring a letter from their landlord and their vet information, but I don't know. That is problematic.
What about, so this is Chelsea. I'm just thinking like, that's a huge problem for fosters and it feels almost like a waste of time. I mean, I know it's not like, but if, instead of saying you can take them right then and there, would it be feasible to say we can mark them adoption pending from the event? We just need to complete like a landlord and vet check, but that allows them to say like, I can get this dog pending these two things. Because I think it's really hard that vets are closed over the weekend, like landlords, I mean, they're the hardest to get a hold of for me, honestly.
Yeah.
But that way they're not like, oh, well, you know, by the next day, someone that's approved can go AP for them and they're sitting in the queue because they're trying to apply for the dog they just met. But they're scooped because someone was already approved.
Yep.
I think that might solve a little portion of the problem, but we have seen, I think even recently in the last month at the Strawberry Festival,
Yes.
I remember there was a foster who somebody was very interested in their dog and we couldn't get it all completed and we promised to get it done by Monday and they went down the line and adopted at another place where they could do it. So I think it's something to think about. I know it's a big step, but the data still shows that veterinary and landlord checks are not helpful in keeping dogs in home or reducing return rates. I know that doesn't feel good for people in general. And then I will go back to the beginning of OPH when we would go to Reston Town Center and adopt out 30, 40 dogs in a day that arrived on transport that day. And just stand there and do the interviews, call their friends. You know, in that case, sometimes then you do talk to a personal reference or you talk to somebody. It's almost more important, do they understand veterinary care? We have a conversation about them. So do you take your dog to the vet? How often do you go? What do you do when you do there? What do you like? What don't you like? What do you think you would do with this? Do you think you can get an appointment? That's a conversation I have a lot of times now.
Yeah.
And it's more, and then it's like, okay, and then, you know, they get into the story of their dog and it's urinary tract infections and who they go to. And it's like, you've got this. This dog is going to get the care that it needs. So I don't know. I think we have to think about being able to give up some more control to maybe find some more homes and see what that means. Because it's not only the adopters, the fosters want to go and want to come home without a dog. They don't want to have to meet up again on Monday. I know as a foster, I don't ever want to see that person again. Once was lots.
Right.
Well, also like like having to schedule a separate time to meet up and keeping your fingers crossed that those two other
Yeah.
checks go through meanwhile your dog is AP, so nobody else, you know, that type of thing.
There's all
Uh,
of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors there, but I do think that a lot of people go to events in particular hoping to go home with a dog that day. Like they
Yep.
are going for that purpose.
Mhm.
Like, oh, there's going to be adoptable animals there. Let's go meet one and bring
Right.
one home. And they go with that expectation. So I think that's why we do end up missing out on some potential adoptions to places that may do same day adoptions.
Um, and another potential thing that we could do is maybe target certain certain adoption events. For example, I was just recently at an adoption event, or it was more of like a fair where we had a booth. And I think we had 3 dogs that kind of came and went throughout the day. There was another organization there that probably had 40 dogs, each with handlers. They had pens of puppies. They had people there processing applications. And I guarantee they adopted a ton of dogs that day.
Yeah.
Which, you know, their handlers and fosters were also excited because they each had 3 or 4 people around each of their dogs trying to,
Mhm.
so you know, maybe if it's something where as a foster, I know that like, we're going to have a big presence and we're probably going to draw a lot of people. It just, they give people something to look forward to also
Right.
as a foster.
Yeah. And
Absolutely. And I also think that marketing it ahead of time,
Mhm.
we can also promote that, like, hey, go ahead and apply just generically,
Yep.
get approved ahead of time, and then go to this event to meet an animal.
There's a piece of that, but if you look at the larger events where there's multiple rescues, you can plan to go to a place, you know, it's like going somewhere, like going to a craft fair, an arts and crafts fair or whatever.
Mhm.
You might look through the list of people that are there and find your favorite. Or you can just go and go row to row to row, and you're going to find something that you love. And you may find something else that you love because the lineup's too big there or whatever.
Mhm.
It's kind of what people, and sometimes those are the adopters that you want. They're just like, oh, I'm just
Right.
looking for a dog to fall in love with.
Mhm.
And they walk around the corner and it's like, oh, you know, Jimmy's the one.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, from a marketing perspective, if there are a lot of people there who are interested, people are more likely to adopt in that situation because they feel that competition. And,
They
you know,
do.
just sending in an application and talking on the phone, they're probably not feeling like it's a got to do it now or I'm not going to get this one kind of thing. So,
There's
and
also the
but,
connecting with a volunteer. So you have this face-to-face conversation, you have the experience with, I mean, we used to line people up like that too. There was dogs and handlers and lineups of people, and you're doing references and you're talking to people, and you're passing them somebody else to give them some training tips. And, you know, everybody's
Mhm.
sort of excited and motivated, and dogs went home. Like you took a dog to an event, there's a good chance it was going home, unless it was the longer stays and you really had to work at it.
right.
well, and like you were saying with, you know, wanting the adopters that are just looking to fall in love and those events to find one to fall in love with, that's a really good setup for those conversation-based adoptions
Mhm.
where, you know, we're really digging into like, oh, okay, like, is there anything in particular you're looking for in that dog? You know, is that like a personality trait to kind of help guide us to dogs that might be good fits for them, which is a really good way to delve into those conversations, like you were saying earlier, of like, oh yeah, I had this dog one time, blah blah blah, and then they tell you their entire life story, and you
Mhm.
really get to know them.
Yeah. And you get to know like what strengths and weaknesses they have, what you can help them, you know, how can we help you provide a better life for this dog than you did for your last dog? I mean, not saying that their last dog didn't have a great life, but you know, if we can always make things better, that's a really great starting point.
Would it be helpful to
Well,
have an
I
adoption
think-
coordinator at the events?
Absolutely.
We used to have them at
Well,
events.
I mean, I went to a couple and I did 2 interviews. And this has been, and I would like to go more because I enjoy to go to them. I mean, I like to meet the dogs, but either I'm doing something or I'm home doing an interview and I can't go. I know Anna has asked me to come a couple times, but I went and I interviewed 2 people. They weren't ready for the dog to come home. So I still had to do the vet check, but I was able to approve them, put them at adoption pending for the dog. Came home Monday, I did the vet check, and I think they adopted a couple days later. But I did 2 interviews at the adoption vet, and I think it would be helpful to have an adoption coordinator there.
Oh, yeah. I think
I
it
wish I wish I could do them because, like I said, I do enjoy them. I do.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be an opportunity for like some specialized ACs that go to events and like that's their thing if they don't like talking on the phone, but maybe they like doing the in-person talking.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I do think we have a shortage of people's availability to do this. I like this idea a lot. I think it would move a lot of dogs, but I think I'm just trying to think of both sides. Like this is putting ACs, even without vet checks even without the personal reference checks, doing a traditional application, it's going to be a little bit more involved. And this is something in the adoption advisory committee, and like we have to think about how we're going to kind of update the guidelines for ACing. But I know some people are also remote, like Joanne and Fran. And like, I'm just trying to think about the workload from an AC perspective, especially if we're going to try to make this role more enticing to people. Like this is where I wish there was a wider group of fosters that were ACs.
Yeah.
Because really they know the dog best. I think like the AC conversation then becomes much easier because it's just kind of like, checking some boxes of vet care and our policies. So I guess I'm just not concerned, but just how can we make this still an enticing role that people want to do without them feeling like super burdened? Oh, now you're an AC, you have to go to events. Like a lot of people want to do things remotely.
Right.
But they could do it remote. I think you hit the proper hybrid there, because that's how we used to do it. Even when I lived in Virginia, I traveled weekends, but I would be on call for Anna and I would get a call. I mean, literally be riding motorcycles out in West Virginia. My phone would buzz. We would pull over and some random gas station and I would do the final. She had already talked to the person. There's 2 or 3 people there. So you're all talking to this person and you're like, we like them. Or it's like, ooh, that person's creepy. Can you talk to them? So you've already had 2 fosters or 2 volunteers or 3 volunteers see these people in person, see that their child didn't jump on the dog, see that their partner is actually interested. They're having good vibes. And they're like, we think this is a good match from everything that we've talked about. And they've talked about their dog and they've heard all the stories. They've done the majority of the stuff, like you said, Chelsea. So you get on the phone and you go, okay, this is the interview part. Are you ready to do all of these things and commit to all of these things? Do you know about the medical and the training and the return policy and introductions and do all those kinds of things? And those dogs didn't. So we've done that successfully for years in the past. And those dogs didn't have a higher return rate. Yeah. So you could have ACs that are remote.
I'm not concerned. Yeah. I guess I'm not concerned about the return. I mean, I honestly don't think like me meeting a person, like you can kind of pick up on what they want, need, you know, and I guess just like from and maybe this is more nuanced and I can save this, but it's just coming to my mind. Like, how do we ask, I mean, is this now an expectation of the AC role? Like, you must, you know, I mean, there's multiple adoption events during the weekends, which is
Right.
awesome, but is it like in this role you are either on call or attend X event? Because that's just like part of this new role.
I don't think that we would have to make it part, you know, I don't think that we would have to require people to be on call or at an event. I think it would be more, you know, people who want to
And volunteers, people. that-
volunteer at those
Yeah,
times.
wanted to do. I mean,
I think you
Anna,
make it as an option. It's to entice
Right.
people again. You
Yeah.
can once in a while, if you want to, if you're home on Saturday afternoon from 1 to 3, you know, you can be on call for so and so to do events. It's a little bit at a time you'll get more events, you'll get more fosters, you'll get more ACs. Maybe some will go to events, maybe they'll do it remotely, but I don't think we're going to require anything else. It's just one more way to contribute.
if you're lucky enough to have Anna there, she can really vet people. I mean, I've had her call me once for an approved adopter that of mine, and she really liked him, but it didn't work out. But she has a good feel for people, I think, and but I don't think she does like all the events. But you know, maybe some ACs. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing them again if I have time, and you know, I could slot out one Saturday a month to go.
That would be.
Yeah, and that's what people would do. You know, Cheryl handles the Frederick one. She's an AC and everything else. Nita handles the other things. She's not an AC, but she's probably met 300 adopters. So we've got a lot of people that are good and comfortable at talking about the dogs, and they can give you a heads up of what they think or what their concerns are. You know, you need to ask them about, I think they have 3 kids and looks like they have 5 kids or whatever. You know, you go off in the corner, it's like, oh, this person really wants to do this, but I'm really worried about X. And
I mean, I could even make myself available on phone.
well,
You know.
yeah, that's what I was saying, is that
Yeah,
just do the phone part of it.
yeah.
And from the foster side, like if, as a foster in an event, like if there's a piece of paper somewhere that said, make sure you ask about these things before calling, like, and that would help me, right? Not being an AC, that just
Yeah.
to make sure I hit all the points that before calling someone who's on call might want to know about.
Or you can call them and say something, and the person can say, how about you ask them, do you want to talk
Yeah.
about these 3 more things?
Perfect. Yeah.
Or, you know, call me back in 10 minutes. It's like, oh, no, they're not gonna, I'm not, you know, you can text, I'm not calling you back. They're not the right one. But, you know, it can be a back and forth thing. But if you can, there's a lot of excitement for everybody about being able to bring home the dog that you meet.
I mean, some don't even, maybe won't bring the dog home right away. I mean,
Yeah.
I did one adoption event where I had to go in with the guy and get the martingale collar to take the dog home. He was determined to take that dog home, and it wasn't the kind of dog his wife wanted. So I talked to the wife to make sure she was okay with it, and she was. And you know, and off he went with the dog. He was determined to take, but he was approved before he came. But he wasn't prepared to take the dog home, but he took one home.
Do you think there's an role for like, I guess, okay, maybe all this is coming from like not a realistic perspective, which is that we don't have enough adoption coordinators. Is is that incorrect, or is that like,
I think you're probably correct at this point. But I think that, we can
okay,
work with people and recruit more adoption coordinators and try and get people up and running with some of this.
right, so I guess my thought then is like, what if we advertise this as like, you can also just be like an events adoption coordinator, even if you don't want to
Yeah.
like, I totally get people during the week, they don't want to carve out time if they're busy and have kids and dogs and whatever to
Mhm.
have these conversations. But like on a weekend, it might be more of an option where it's like, it's blocked. It's like 1 to 3. You don't have to take any calls during the week or anything like that. So it kind of is like a set schedule. And I don't know, maybe that would be more interesting to some people. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
I
think
mean,
of
I
like
think that's a
ways to
brilliant
get
idea.
more.
I mean, we might get more fosters that want to become ACs too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
I
too.
think so
Yeah.
too. Especially like what we were saying earlier about, it's the fosters want to have this expectation that if they bring their dog to the event, they're not coming home with that dog.
Right.
It's definitely helpful if they have some of that training to be an AC, and even if they need to like bounce it off of somebody else who's there, and also
Or
talk
who's
with
on the
someone else
phone.
to get a feel for the person and make sure that they feel confident. I think that would be a really great opportunity, and it would be enticing for more fosters to bring their fosters to events,
Mhm.
knowing that they do have that opportunity to go home that day.
And in a training aspect, a foster is probably very easy to train because they're all kind of
Yeah.
familiar with it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, they're really an optimal person to talk with the potential.
Oh, perfect.
you know. Okay. Other questions, concerns, ideas? Thoughts?
Can I say something?
Yes,
It's
please.
Fran. It's Fran. My husband's picture, but it's Fran. A couple of times, he's better looking than me. A couple of times, I picked up applications, and the person said that they fell in love with the dog at the event, and I was kind of, I was like so happy I happened to see that, but I figured there had to be some way of notifying ACs that had happened, because he had already met the dog a couple of times. It happened. I was like, oh, I wish I knew that. But luckily I just saw the application. So I don't know how, is there a way of posting AC needed, so-and-so met dog, or, something like that? Because I think I would hate that person who already met the dog. I don't want to lose that person because it took too long to get to his application or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way
Yeah,
of,
That's a
of-
really good
of,
thought.
yeah, I don't know how to do that, how it can be posted. And then the other thing I was thinking of, and I don't know if it would be a way of something that could be done when we post about events, could there be, I don't know, could there be something like, fill out an application if you want before you come? I mean, you might not get that many people doing that, but maybe they would realize there is an application to fill
Mhm.
out. And then, I don't know, just trying to think of, what I can offer from my virtual position in New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the things that we've posted for events do have a blurb about fill out your application before you come,
Okay.
and some don't. And I think, if we had like a barcode or something quick, and if there's a barcode and people can just read it with their phone and do that when they see the posting, that might be a good option.
And
Do
if
we know how people find out about events? Like, is it our website or like our Facebook or
I don't know if we do know.
maybe?
Yeah, it's on the website. It's under events.
Yeah, but I
And-
don't know if that's where people
On
Right, but
Facebook, yeah.
see it.
Yeah, I don't know if
Like, they
people are
post
finding out
it on
more from
Instagram.
social media or from. Go ahead, Chelsea.
No, I'm interested in that mainly because a lot of people that I do finals for, they find the dog, pet finder, adopt a pet. They have not even been to our website. They don't even know that we have a website with just like our dog.
Mhm.
So
I've had that
my
too.
hypothesis is like, it's not through the website, which that's where there's information to like submit the application, right? But I could be totally off. I'm just going
Yeah,
based
no,
on
I
like
think you're
how
right.
it's shared on other channels, like
Mhm.
Instagram stories. I mean, that's where, you know, all the social media outlets. So maybe having something attached there, and I can't remember, there might already be like the little link to the application on that announcement, but yeah.
If
Is
there
it
is-
Do we have a question that asks, how did you hear about us on anything?
I was just
Yes,
about to ask
on the
that.
application.
Okay,
On
we
the-
do have it on the application.
It is on the application, yeah.
Okay. Because yeah, I would say just from like my personal experience of events that I end up attending, I'm mostly finding out about them on social media or because I happen to see like a sign for it. So that wouldn't even be posted by us. That would be posted by whoever the host of the event is.
Mhm.
Because I know like a lot of times, like if we partner with like a PetSmart or something like that, like they're the ones who like make signs and posters and do some advertising that way. So I don't know how a lot of people get the information about the events other than that.
Is it put on the Facebook?
I think
It is,
Yes, it is on Facebook.
isn't?
And we do
It's
also
on
have
Facebook
the
and there's an email that goes out.
yep.
And if you go up to events on Facebook in your area, it will show up that way.
Mhm.
And then there's the people expect, you know, if they go to their local pet store, it'll say this rescue is going to be there, or they
Right.
expect to be there once a month. But there really, very few people care about which rescue it is.
Right, and I would bet that most of the people who
Right.
see it at the pet store don't see any information about like, you know, filling out an application beforehand. So,
Correct.
Yeah.
I think most events we used to have iPads at them and let people filled them out there.
Mhm.
And then. do
Yeah,
the
I feel like that would be
interviews.
the most,
Mhm.
useful for the like on the spot adoptions if we're gonna roll that out.
Right.
Well, think about the on-the-spot adoption. So what if we went back to doing a couple references on the spot? Because if you come up and fill out an application, then you're talking to me and I'm like, okay, who can I call right now to verify you are who you are? And whatever. I mean, they can text real fast and say, you know, I'm trying to get a dog to fight with it or something, but they're not going to.
Mhm.
It's, you know, that usually it's like, oh, here's my best friend, he's walking his dog, and you ask
Right.
him some questions. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think even with the on-the-spot adoptions, I mean, they, you know, I don't think there are any worse outcomes than,
No, they're not. That's the data shows they don't have any different outcomes,
right,
except they're faster.
right. Yeah.
I did one at an adoption event, and I have to say I was a little skeptical, but he turned out to be a wonderful adopter. Wonderful.
Great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for the most part, people who are looking really do have the best intentions. I mean, I don't think that we're going to get a whole lot of people, you know, coming into PetSmart or coming to the winery or whatever, who are looking to do terrible things. And just, they're not going to come to a rescue group if they're going to try to find a dog, generally.
Mhm.
No, they'll go to a shelter where it's easier.
Or Craigslist.
Craigslist.
Yeah, Craigslist.
Or the Walmart parking lot.
One question. One question about logistics, like with the contract and whatnot. So we're at an event, right? Say I'm there, do the final-ish thing, whatever. Is it, because I know, like, I could personally send the meet and greet email right then and there, but I know the contract is a separate process. Like, would that also be?
There is an
feasibly?
there is an email saying you adopted from an adoption event and that the contract will go out later.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's specifically for adoption events.
Okay.
And also, if you let me know and I'm around, but you know, there is an email that specifically for adoption events.
Well, that's good. That's good to know. I don't know if I
Yeah,
was.
but-
Well, there's an email that goes out, but it doesn't, you still need a person to do the contract, right?
Yeah, that would be me or Jamie.
Yeah, so.
Mostly me.
then
Well, no, I mean, Jamie has a
But
boat too, but.
The whole thing
usually-
would stop if there's not a person to do the contract.
No, just email. I'm trying to find the email. Let's see. Talk amongst yourself. I'm trying to find it.
And do people just pay on the spot when they do that? Do they pay like Venmo or something?
They can pay because they have, oh, wait a minute.
The
If you do it-
donation link is there, so they can pay that way.
Yeah, if you do the meet and greet. No, you can't do the meet and greet because. Yeah, oh wow. Well, no, the AC can create the invoice, right?
Right.
And give them
Right.
the link and give them the link to pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is an event approval email. And it says you will receive an email from PandaDoc to electronically sign the legally binding adoption contract. Please review, fill out, and sign within 24 hours of receiving the contract.
Okay.
But I think the adoption the fees have to be paid at the event.
Okay.
So we accept the contract later, that's good.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, that is good. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's in the manual.
Terrific. Okay. Like that. All right. And as far as the pilot, anybody have any questions, concerns, anything at all that we should discuss?
Are we gonna change the application, take the references out of there? For the pilot term?
I think that we should.
Yep,
Yeah. And,
so we should ask Mark to do that pretty quickly, because I think we're down to the wire on his.
oh, for him moving. Oh, great.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that we can take care of. Anything else at all on anybody's mind? Anybody need to get anything off your chest right this minute?
I have a naive question. Was confused as to why the contract can't just be, like, why can't the event coordinator be able to spit out contracts and, invoices right at the event?
Well, I don't think
'Cause,
that's.
I mean,
right.
I
That's
just
not
say
like
it makes
that.
me nervous to give a dog away without a contract, right?
Sometimes, I have to look
we
at
could
the
have them
contract.
sign a written contract. That's what we used to do.
I was gonna say, do we have a paper contract that they can
We
sign?
had paper
Like, we send out a-
contracts.
That might be something that you could take to the adoption event. But usually I have to look at it, and if there's an issue with it, I have to kick it back.
Mm,
And they're not usually sitting there waiting I had to chase somebody down because he wasn't waiting. But if we had a paper contract, yeah, he had the dog, it was kind of,
But it doesn't happen often. It's like one in,
no, but I
500,
do,
one in
I
a
have
thousand?
kicked them, I have kicked them back because they spelt their name wrong or, not for the name wrong. Sometimes we'll go ahead and take that, but there's just an issue with it that, it has to be redone.
mhm.
So we can't take it.
Well,
I
so we
mean, it
could have
doesn't have
paper
to follow.
contracts. You can take a scan of that with your phone. You can send it in. There might be a little bit more putting things together on a Monday morning. The dogs have gone home.
But totally worth it. If we're sending dogs home and cats. Okay. Yeah, I think that was a good question. All right. Anything else? Okay, well, if we don't have anything else, please do let us know if you are interested in doing ACing, if you are interested in doing admin stuff, if you would like to continue doing RC stuff, and if you have questions about any of the pilot program, you can talk to me, you can talk to Ellen and Lee, you can talk to Joanne, you can talk to Chelsea, and we will all be happy to help. And I guess that I will let you guys go. I will send out we have a whole folder of resources about low barrier adoption and streamlined adoptions, and we can send all of that information out and make it available for everybody too.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Night.
Good night.
Um,
Oh, I guess I should turn off the thing.
Right.
Bye.